In this lesson, we're going to look at the past progressive tense, how to make verbs in the past progressive. We're going to distinguish between the past simple and the past progressive and choose the best verb to put in text. Okay, so let's look at two examples. In the past simple tense, I would say, I slept when my sister arrived home. So the first action is my sister arrived home, and the second action is I slept. But in the past progressive, I was sleeping when my sister arrived home. So the action is ongoing. Before my sister arrived home, I was sleeping, and it could be that I remained sleeping when my sister arrived. Let's have a look at another example. Jacob was taking a shower when the postman knocked at the door. So the ongoing action is that Jacob was having a shower. And then something else happened that interrupted this action. The postman knocked at the door. So was Jacob ready when the postman knocked? No, he wasn't. Why? Because he was in the shower. So we use the past progressive tense to talk about actions that were ongoing over a certain period of time, and they were interrupted with something else, with another action. Okay. My bedroom, when the alarm broke off. I was cleaning my bedroom when the alarm broke off. Let's have a look at another example. Jim, television, when his father came home. Jim was watching television when his father came home. So he was watching television before his father came home. The action started before another action, and then his father arrived. The past progressive can also be used to talk about actions that are in progress and usually referring to temporary rather than permanent actions. If we have a look at these two examples, in the past simple tense, I would say he lived in Birmingham for 2 months. So that's a completed action in the past. But in the past progressive tense, we would say this time last year he was living in Birmingham. So the action was in progress at this time last year. So how do we form the past progressive tense? We use the auxiliary to be in the past, the verb plus ing. So for example, I was studying, you were eating, he or she was playing. Take note of the third person singular. He was, she was. We were talking, you were arguing, they were sleeping. Okay, let's have a look at two other examples. The same thing in my violin lessons, over and over again. I needed the practice. So I was doing the same thing in my violin lessons, over and over again. I needed the practice. Too much noise. We were making too much noise. The past progressive can also be used to talk about two actions happening at the same time, and they are not influencing each other in any way. For example, I was watching television while you were surfing the net. So one of the actions could have taken longer than the other. It doesn't matter. But both actions were in progress over a certain period of time in the past. There is also a signal word over there, which is while. Two other signal words that show us, that indicate to us that we need to use the past progressive are when and and. Okay, let's have a look at two other examples. I in the garden and you dinner. I was working in the garden and you were cooking dinner. So these two actions were in progress. They were happening at the same time, simultaneously, but they are not influencing each other. Okay, we can also use the past progressive in narrative writing when we are setting up a background. The sun was setting over the forest. The young boys were idling back to their camping sites, following their leaders. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed round the hills. So we use the past progressive when we are setting the scene of the story. It's the background scene setting. The sun was setting, the young boys were idling. We use the past simple for actions in the story. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed. The past progressive is also used when we're talking about repeated actions, similar to the present progressive. Actions that are often irritating to the speaker, so they happen more often than is necessary. For example, Mariella was always losing her glasses. Andrew was always smoking. They were always arguing. Okay, so let's practice. We're going to read a story where all the verbs have been removed. You can download this, and I suggest that you go through it and have a look at it before you try and fill in the gaps. Okay, so I'm going to read the story out with you. Just before midnight, on the 31st of October last year, Stefania, home after work and to the radio. Suddenly, an old man out in front of her. He, oblivious of the fact that he in the middle of the road and down on the ground. He, a dark-colored raincoat and thin glasses. Stefania, the brake as hard as she could, but it was too late. She out of the car, but to her surprise, nobody there. So the verbs which we need to put either in the past simple or the past progressive tense are be, drive, listen, step, seem, walk, look, wear, press, get, and be. Remember, we use the past progressive when we're setting the scene, the background of the story. We use the past simple for actions in the story and the other rules that we have just gone through. Okay, so I'm going to read out the answers for the first part of the story with you. It was just before midnight on the 31st of October last year. So that's a finished action. It's a definite point in time in the past. Stefania was driving. This is an action that was in progress in the past after work and was listening to the radio. Suddenly, this is the action that interrupted the other action. An old man stepped out in front of her. He seemed, that's the state verb, oblivious of the fact that he was walking in the middle of the road and was looking down on the ground. He was wearing, this is description, setting the scene again, a dark-colored raincoat and thin glasses. Stefania, the action, pressed the brake as hard as she could, but it was too late. She got out of the car, but to her surprise, there was nobody there. Now let's look at the second part of the story. While, that's the signal word, while she, under the car, a strange presence that sent shivers down her spine. She, under the car when a lorry pulled up behind her. The lorry driver, a middle-aged man, up to her and her if she needed any help. Him, what had happened. He rather surprised when Stefania told him about the old man and uttered, "In October 1989 there a car accident on this road and an old man was fatally run over. You're not the first to have had this experience, so it seems." The verbs that we need to put either in the past simple or in the past progressive are the following: look, feel, look, come, ask, tell, seem, and be. Okay, so let's look at the answers. While she was looking under the car, she felt a strange presence that sent shivers down her spine. She was still looking under the car when a lorry pulled up behind her. The lorry driver, a middle-aged man, came up to her and asked her if she needed any help. She told him what had happened. He seemed rather surprised when Stefania told him about the old man and uttered, "In October 1989 there was a car accident on this road and an old man was fatally run over. You're not the first to have had this experience, so it seems." Okay, how do you feel about the past progressive and the past simple tenses? If you're up for the challenge, you can do a quick task to test your knowledge of these tenses.